and they are huge.
Well, and that big guy that we got committed today, that 4-star defensive lineman Nehemiah Ambadi.
Yeah, hey, that rolled right off your tongue. It's like
I've read it about 1,000 times today looking at Twitter. But he had a quote, and I'm trying to find it now, but he said something about how much why he's committing to Nebraska, and he talked about the brotherhood that they have down here. He's a guy from Minnesota that also, Emmett Johnson, who's also from Minnesota, apparently retweeted one of his tweets and said, basically, welcome to the family.
Love it.
So I think something that I think I saw earlier today, he might be like, if not the number one player out of Minnesota.
He is the number one player in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was also a massive Minnesota guy. Like they thought that was locked down.
Yeah.
45, 40, 35, 40, he's gonna go! It's time people feel it!
Big Red Junkies.
Day by day, he gets better and better! He gets better and better! David, if we die, we die!
Man, it's moving a child in that. Put him in the aisle.
Bring that trophy back to Lincoln!
Welcome into a new episode of the Big Red Junkies. I am BJ. This is Jed. This is Matt. We are stoked to be here with you guys tonight. It has been, again, we keep telling you guys, we're getting back on track and we're going to do new stuff.
But it's June. It's football season now. Let's go.
It's true. We're actually back in it. We're doing a few shows tonight that are going to come out over the next couple of weeks. We will be back on track with full weekly schedule for you guys moving forward. So without further ado, we are jumping into just kind of recap our thoughts on some of the recruiting progress that this 2027 class has made. Everybody that watches the show religiously, we appreciate you guys, obviously, but you also know that Jed is not a recruiting fan.
Nope.
However, Jed, how do you feel about this 27 class? You're getting a little excited, huh?
Well, and I guess the way it's phrased, I would just say that I don't follow it aggressively. Do I like listening to it every once in a while when people are saying how we've got 7 new commits in the last 5 days or whatever it is?
Yeah, 17 minutes, it seems like.
It seems like every other time you refresh Twitter or something, a new guy is committed. I love all the good news coming from it. I just don't follow it enough to, you asked me about a guy earlier before we started recording. I was like, I don't know who that is. I was like, and it was, so it was just.
I get that. But this class has actually, it's enough to get anybody excited, even if you don't like to follow recruiting.
I get excited because of the positions that are are committing.
Yeah.
That's my biggest part is that. I think I saw a list earlier today. There was 4 defensive linemen that we just recently got, and it had up their height and their weights, and it was 6'4", 6'3", 6'3", 6'4", 290, 280.
Finding the monsters.
Yes, exactly.
So the back half of what you said there is actually the part that's gotten me excited, both for D-line, but also the offensive line, especially. Yes. Some of the dudes that they've got, it's this is a different style of recruiting.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I want to start with this is I don't think that it can be overlooked that it's pretty obvious, not only from a coaching change perspective, obviously the type of interaction we're getting with some of these recruits, both in the portal, but also in the recruiting class that's for 27. Jeep Wade's making a massive impact. But the other side of that is we weren't able to attract the kind of attention that we're attracting now with the last guy that was here. And it's also pretty obvious that maybe he doesn't really think too highly of the guys we already have on the roster with the way he's bringing in everything the way he is.
Well, I think it depends on the philosophy of, this is, again, another one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest recruiting guy in the world, especially in today's world of college football, where it's all, most of it, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, is all transactional.
Yeah.
The chances of most of these guys staying for 4 years, let's be realistic, is slim, because that's just the way college sports is now. And there are lots of programs across the country. We are sort of one of them, where it's not necessarily all about high school recruiting. It's also about the transfer portal. So, it's kind of one of those okay, well, we'll see how long these guys stay here. I hope they stay here forever, but it's just realistic. So
I don't mind the philosophy of I'm going to go get all of the best players I can, and the cream of the crop will rise, and the rest, we really appreciate you I bet you can play a little more somewhere else.
Yeah.
But as far as what you were talking about with guys like Jeep Wade, and I'd also give a nod to, because we brought up the defensive lineman, Corey Brown and what he's doing. Corey Brown and Roy Manning, by the way.
I was going to say Roy Manning.
What the guys in the trenches are doing right now is remarkable. And I think one of the other things that we need to bring up with talking about is specifically high school recruiting is the thing that we've been lacking the most on the entire Nebraska football staff for many years, well, even before Rhule, is the development part of it. And, it's great to bring in these players, but if you don't develop them, it doesn't mean shit.
100%.
Well, the fact that we are getting so many so quickly tells me that it's players that are looking specifically to play for these guys and get developed by these guys.
Well, especially on the Jeep Wade side of things.
Yeah.
He's pulled 3 of the top offensive linemen out of Georgia. You're pulling from the heart of SEC country where it's really easy to go down the road to Georgia or even Georgia Tech where he came from, which is part of why he's so well entrenched in Georgia, but across the lines to Alabama. There's a lot of need for help on the O-line down there, and these guys are coming out. They're some of the best guys that are around, and they are huge.
Well, and that big guy that we got committed today, that 4-star defensive lineman Nehemiah Ambadi.
Yeah, hey, that rolled right off your tongue. It's like
I've read it about 1,000 times today looking at Twitter. But he had a quote, and I'm trying to find it now, but he said something about how much why he's committing to Nebraska, and he was talked about the brotherhood that they have down here. He's a guy from Minnesota that also Emmett Johnson, who's also from Minnesota, apparently retweeted one of his tweets and said basically "Welcome to the family."
Love it.
So I think something that I think I saw earlier today. He might be like, if not the number one player out of Minnesota.
He is the number one player in Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was also a massive Minnesota guy. Like they thought that was locked down.
Yeah. So to get, I always say, a couple of years ago, we did one of the recruiting shows after signing day, and we talked about how I think we got the number one player out of 5 different states. And it's like, were they the biggest states in the world that has the most talent in the world? No. But you know what? To be able to go outside of Nebraska and get the number one player out of any state, I'll take it.
This is going to sound super gay, but what I'm going to say is, hey, if you're getting
I'm very scared with what's coming next.
If you're getting a Hayes Fawcett drop for your recruiting announcement, that's a pretty good guy. Mm-hmm. That's kind of like the X measure for what X.com is what I mean, but the X measure for what is or what isn't a top tier.
Just say Twitter.
I was going to say.
Okay.
Fucking.
I don't care.
I thought we were finally transitioning past that. Calling it
we
Twitter.
never know.
Because X customer service sucks, so I'm going to call them Twitter forever.
Well, yeah. So that update on that, folks. Not only did we lose our Big Red Junkies account, but if you were a big fan of Jed's account, that has also been gone.
Yeah.
He has a new one. Jed, what's the handle on this new one?
At Jed Burks BRJ, so for Big Red Junkies.
There we go. We will have a new Big Red Junkies one coming out. We're just trying to make sure we're not actually getting the old one back, but stay tuned on that one. And don't buy any crypto from them.
No shit.
Or whatever else they're hawking. But yeah, let's get into this list a little bit, because for me, the biggest thing that I see when I look through this entire list is need. There's a couple of DBs on here that are that's not really necessarily need, because that's a stacked room of young guys. But the guys that they got are like big time. Getting Torrey Pittman to commit out of Omaha, that's awesome. Obviously, keeping the best players in Nebraska is a giant thing, and the fan base absolutely loves that. I think it rubbed a lot of people wrong last year that we had, what's his name from Millard South, the quarterback, go down to Alabama.
Yeah.
I think that some people might like the new quarterback that's playing at Millard South when it comes to who's going to be your next young guy in the program. Who knows? They might be equal. Tamala might end up better, but Trey Taylor's looked damn good, and for the last 2 weeks, he's been the talk of all of college football.
If Trey Taylor is our consolation.
Oh, darn. Also, by the way, as of today, officially, at least on one ranking website, a 5-star and the number 1 quarterback in the country.
I thought it said number 3, but whatever. Either way, it doesn't.
Number 1 quarterback in the country,
Sure.
number 8 player in the country.
Okay.
And he, according to 24/7 Sports, And On3 and Rivals haven't updated their stuff yet, but I'm sure that one's coming soon.
Yeah, get on it On3 and Rival.
After the show that he put on at the Elite 11 Academy, that was some of those highlights. I'm getting a little bit of goosebumps right now talking about it, because if he plays like that in Memorial Stadium, that's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice.
Or if he plays like that at Millard South.
Well, there's that too.
Especially with who's the receiver that also transferred? I'm brain farting on his name now too. He's not on your list here.
He's not on my list. Why is he not on my list? That doesn't. It's Tay Ellis, I believe. Yeah, Tay Ellis. Yeah, and that guy's 4-star, 3-star. He's kind of been on that line there. I think he's only going to see his stock go up, getting to be a primary pass catcher for Trey at Millard South.
Well, and that offense that Millard South runs too, like they're going to put up numbers.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be nice to watch. I'm also excited about keeping Matt Erickson. He's a legacy guy. He's a big dude. I actually, funny story, but bought a pair of one-time used Air Force Ones from his mother, and he was in the car when he was a freshman in high school. And I wear 15s. I don't wear small shoes, but she had gotten them, and in the time from when she ordered them, the 15s fit. And by the time they got there, whatever it was, 5 days later, probably, or less, they didn't fit anymore.
And his mom's got some really big feet. I'm just kidding.
Mrs. Erickson, if you happen to be listening, Matt's an asshole.
You can hate me. It's fine.
I think there's your open right there.
But I don't even remember what kind of car she was driving, but it was a little sedan. And he was folded into that front seat. And he was a freshman in high school. And I was like, God damn, are you playing football? And he's like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And they got out of the car and talked to me for a little bit and found out, Dad obviously played at Nebraska and all those different things. We kind of stayed in touch for a minute. We were going to try and get his dad on the show and get him on the show. And I don't know if that's a possibility anymore, but we're still going to try. But it's a fun little touch point on that from a couple of years ago. And now to look at him as being like the first O-lineman in the class, but also kind of being an anchor as far as the recruiting goes. Him and Trey Taylor have put together a hell of a collection of talent that's looking at him and falling around. So
yes, indeed.
I love that shit. Is there anybody else on here that really, really jumps out to you guys?
Just looking at the dates and when we secured some of these, 7 in the last week. That's pretty nice.
We had a giant camp here this last week.
Yeah.
We also got some really, really cool exposure. What's the I'm brain farting on the high school from Las Vegas, the big one.
Oh, Bishop Gorman.
Yeah, Bishop Gorman was here to run drills and practices against, I think it was 4 or 5 other high schools. But Millard South was there, and Bishop Gorman's like one of the top 5 programs in the country every year. And there's several of the people that I heard talk about it were talking about how Bishop Gorman ran out their second unit, and they were still like their average offensive lineman was still like 275. Jeez. Like they're a minor college team playing against a bunch of high school kids. But it looked like, and it sounded like Trey still got to make some plays. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure in his face and getting to see some of that stuff. Kind of playing the season almost backwards if they were going to play their hardest game in the championship, because that was definitely going to be the hardest team they're going to face all year. And then flip it to playing Omaha local stuff. I think they're actually playing Mosey's old high school team, I believe, out of St. Louis, aren't they? I can't remember what it is, but that's going to be, I'm going to go to a high school football game that's not my alma mater game for the first time in probably 15 years, 10 years at least, because I definitely want to get to a game up there.
I think another guy that is not on your list, that I'm looking at the On3 list of commits, is interior offensive lineman Jordan Agbanamo, or whatever, however you pronounce his last name, 6'3", 315, and he's in high school. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that was a giant get.
Those numbers are sometimes reported a little light, so you don't know quite how big that guy is.
You're an incoming true freshman. We're going to have to ask you to cut some weight.
God.
He's playing his senior year at 400 pounds. No, he's a big boy. Like I said, though, that's the case with most of these guys that are on here. You're seeing college level size already, whereas the majority of the higher level recruits we've gotten over the last, I would say, probably decade, it's always been, their skill level is really there. They just have to get their body up to college level.
Yeah, is 6'7", 280, is that big?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say just slightly. But these guys are coming in not having that problem. And when we're talking about the developmental piece, if you're asking a guy like let's take what's his name? Big D tackle for us that was supposed to be really good last year. And
Riley Van Poppel.
Yeah, Riley Van Poppel. What's been the biggest gripe that they've had with him and his ability to really be effective? It's we got to get your weight up. We got to get you to your body to the size that we need to play at. And that's been his big struggle. Instead of focusing on all the developmental pieces and being able to use his body as it sits. Now, obviously, the change in some of our scheme is going to help with that, but not having to worry about with some of these guys, it's hey, well, let's tone up, let's trim up, let's get stronger, as opposed to, well, we're going to have to get you about 30 to 40 pounds heavier in order to play the position we see. That's going to be a big change. Outside of that, the only thing that I really wish we saw here, which I don't know if it's just so commoditized now because of the transfer portal that your bigger wide receivers, you're just going to constantly go into the portal for those guys every year or what it is. But
for at least one, kind of like what we did with Quasi Gilmer.
Yeah. I mean, that maybe that's just the way of college football moving forward. It's going to be interesting to see how things shake out the year after we have the single transfer portal window that gets then reopened because there's dual sport athletes and things like that are happening. I don't know did you guys catch that? We had our first one of those.
Weird loophole. Yeah.
Like 2 weeks ago, he's entering the portal as a track player, the quarterback, one of the quarterbacks from UCLA.
Yeah. But I think also as far as wide receiver goes, and obviously you still want to continue to recruit everybody at every position, but they love the youth that we have at wide receiver right now.
True. Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, I'm not saying you don't recruit another guy, but you can kind of be choosy and not necessarily reach for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, other than that, man, there's been, I know Bryce Williams out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That was a big pull for Addison Williams. I don't think there's a relation there. Not like Williams is a common name, but
you never know.
As I said it out loud, I was like, that's strange.
It's not like his last name was Ambadi.
Yeah. And then the other side of that is Amir Brown. For the second year, we have a really highly productive high school kid coming into the class. Yep. And that's a big thing because that was a gripe of mine for a while with our running backs room is it just wasn't, we weren't getting the talent in. And being able to do that, and I think Emmett Johnson's success last year is helping with some of that notoriety.
Hopefully.
At least it should be.
I hope EJ Barthel continues to make at least somebody better because he has pretty much every year. Because we're going to need it this year. So,
yeah. Matt, who did you say your favorite player was out of this class?
I just like his name, Mato Mo. I don't know how to say it, so I apologize now. But
it sounded like you had a stutter.
It's Mato Mo.
Mato Mo.
Yeah, he's
it's probably like Ma'ato or something like that.
It's probably Ma'ato, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? There's some good names in this class that are going to take a little bit getting used to.
Yeah.
Yeah, Earl's got one that I'm going to have to work on tackling. I'm not even going to attempt that tonight. But we have time. We have time because they're not coming in yet. So.
That Demon Tognac, whatever his name is,
you went after it.
D lineman out of Florida.
Errol.
Yeah.
But he's another dude that you're looking at and you're going 6'3", 270. That's a dude right there. By the time he gets done playing his senior year, he's probably going to be pushing that 293 Bills stage. That's
something like a Jackson Smith is a little easier for my dumb brain to handle. So
or Erickson.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm just excited about it. I think it's good. It's good to see us actually taking another bigger class. I think everybody it was weird to see the fan outcry after the 26 class because it was like, guys, we know we have a very young team. We have to add a large transfer portal. You're not going to be able to add a large transfer portal, bring the roster size down another 10 to 15 spots, and then add 27 guys in a class.
Yeah, that's another thing to consider is the roster limits that are in effect now.
Yeah. The other, and it's tiered down. I don't think it's all the way to 105 this year.
It's not 100% quite yet. It's
there's like a grandfather rule of the kids that were already on the roster. But at the same time, you've also got to take into account now all the money that's out there, and some of it's got to be capped. Some of it's got to be explained. So there's guys that are naturally going to be leaving because of the fact that, well, there's not a paycheck left for me.
Although, to be fair, I don't know if you know this or not about college sports right now. There are no rules. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
Well,
especially if your name is Brendan Sorsby.
time and place. I guess I don't know if we want to talk about that right now.
I mean,
I was just talking in general, but also
this is our recruiting. This is our recruiting and portal show. So, or not necessarily portal show, but
this is kind of our like things in the news right now because that's what recording.
Well, then, we can totally talk about what an idiot Brandon Sorsby is,
or the
Tech
judge
for that matter.
I mean, he actually kind of seems like a genius right now because he somehow beat the Pete Rose rule. And, he's basically turning all of sports into a laughingstock at the moment.
Yeah.
He's kind of turning Texas Tech into a laughingstock at the moment.
He's turning
that's
all
done.
of it.
That's done. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Today they announced that the Big 12 schools are looking at what kind of sanctions they can put in place. Apparently they have bylaws in place where they can sanction a school and not allow them to play a conference schedule and things like that. And it said, what was the line that they consulted a lawyer about it who deals a lot with this stuff, and he said that the bylaws for the Big 12 conference actually, what did he say? He said they'll be limited. The sanctions that they put on them will be limited by their creativity, basically meaning that there's no rules about what they can do. So how creative can they get?
All I know is that dickbag money bags for Texas Tech, Cody Campbell, has already come out and said that they basically are already ready to sue for anything that they, happens, and they're looking for a second injunction. I don't know what a second injunction will do in this situation, but
I'm not a lawyer.
It's like, okay, like whatever.
I don't understand all that stuff. It is what it is.
I don't either.
But all I know, you're an asshole, Brandon Sorsby, and you shouldn't be allowed to play football.
All I know is you can't bet on your own team. Period. End of conversation.
Also, here's another thing that I think the NFL could actually help in this situation is by coming out and saying, you know what? He bet on his own team already. He has a track record. We're not going to allow him to play in the NFL. You go ahead and put that line down, and all of a sudden, all of his potential earning, or his earning potential and all that harm that could be due for him prepping for the draft and all those things, out the door.
Yeah, but if he can't play in the NFL, then he'll be mentally incapable of living the rest of his life, and it'll be a massive harm on his capacity to exist.
You know what? If that sticks, though, it's going to open the door to lawsuits for people that don't get drafted. It's going to open the door for lawsuits. That's my point.
I also would like a contract to play football.
I've been harmed by not being able to play football in the NFL. Somebody give me some money or let me play college football.
We didn't get to play at Nebraska. Can we say that our mental capacity is already jacked up? Which it is. But
let the 5-for-5 rule pass, and I've still got 5 years of eligibility. Let's go, guys.
My knees already hurt just thinking about it.
Yeah, everything hurts thinking about it. Yes. I'm too old to be getting hit by pipsqueaks. Anything else on this one, guys? Because I think we pretty well wrapped this up. We're excited to be back.
Yeah. We're
excited to be back with you guys. We appreciate you. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. It is free. It does help us, and it allows us to get more content out.
Also, because we're still working on our Twitter stuff, please share it so that it can get out. Because specifically on Twitter,
we've no reach because some asshole in India stole our page. Also, if you're watching, asshole in India, fuck you.
Yeah, you're not getting the $100 that you wanted.
And this may be the most unbelievable night in Cornhusker football history.